book nerds, this is Gabby, and today I'm gonna tell you, was 2021 even worth it? We're in a new location because today, me, self-proclaimed queen of new releases, will rank every release I read in 2021, year of the Lord, and tell you, were they good? Were they bad? Should you even bother? Was this year a waste? I don't know why, but I feel like I'm on the news. Coming at you today, were any 2020 releases even good? T. Anyway, yes, we're gonna be having some fun with the tier maker today. I have read 35 new releases. Well, I read more than that, probably about 40 new releases, which is books that came out in 2021. But I decided not to count sequels in this one because I thought it's not so fun because like a sequel, it's like a whole new beast. So today we're just talking about first book in the series or standalones that I read that were debuts, new releases, new series starters, everything new. So if you're looking, which releases did I miss out on in 2021, just keep watching this video and I will tell you. I'm gonna make some nice timestamps, so if you wanna jump around, feel free to do that. I have made my own tier list. This is my 2020 releases tier list, and you can see that I have 6 categories. Number one, masterpiece. Need I say more? It's just a masterpiece, period. There you go. Number 2, good time indeed. It was a good time. I enjoyed it. Probably like a 4.4 star. Really good book. It's just not a masterpiece. Number 3, I respect what it tried to do. So not all books I enjoyed, but I read a lot of books that were ambitious and they were doing new things and they were exploring a completely new perspective. So I respect what it tried to do, but personally, it was just okay for me. I didn't dislike it. If I disliked it, there's a new tier. I didn't dislike it, but personally for me, it wasn't it. Then number 4 is it exists. It's fine. It's like, it's alright. I enjoyed it when I read it, but I probably never think about it again. It was fine. Number 5 is snooze. It's boring. It was really boring. Number 6 is I am kind of offended, and this I'm saving for these special books that I actually think were absolute trash. I don't even know if there will be any like that here, but we're just gonna kick it off. First book we have is A Dark and Hollow Star. So this book is first one in an urban fantasy series, and we follow 2 lesbians trying to figure out who's killing all the half-fae in the world, and it's set in Toronto. I must say, big surprise for me. I really enjoyed this book. It was super fun, fast-paced, good romance. There was also a gay romance as well, so there was like something for everyone, and I thought it was a really good time. So I would say it was a good time indeed. It was not a masterpiece. I'm not gonna lie to you, it was not a masterpiece, but it was a good time. Next book is A Lesson in Vengeance. So this is another sapphic. This is kind of an urban fantasy, or more like paranormal, really. It's not fantasy, it's paranormal, or like implies to be paranormal, but it's basically about the school that's like super posh boarding school, and there's a group of girls, as per usual, and the main character, her secret girlfriend, died last year, and it's kind of this character coming to terms with that, but as well as starting a new romance with this new girl who moved in, and also the main character believes in witchcraft. So that's kind of how we went. I must say, this one I had very high expectations. People were going on and on about it. Everyone was so excited before it came out. Like, all the reviews were very positive. I think it was really freaking boring. Like, it was really boring. I didn't like it. I didn't like the characters. I understand what they tried to do, but it's just like did not work for me. I get it, but no thank you. So actually, A Lesson in Vengeance, I would say snooze. It was boring as hell. Okay, ignore that. I was supposed to be transparent by its white background, so we're going with it. But yeah, boring as hell. No thank you. All of Us Villains. So this one is a new release by Amanda Foody, who I really love because she's the author of Ace of Shades. In this book, we follow this little town, and there's a curse put on this town where the top 6 or 7 families have to fight to the death every 10 years, I think, for access to a very powerful magic. I would say it was a good time indeed. I see flaws in it, definitely has flaws, but personally I really enjoyed it, and it was by my favorite author, so probably my expectations were up there. Like, they were high. But it did kind of live up, and it had a really good romance. A little bit underdeveloped, like the whole book. Like the whole book, I think if I had one comment, it would be develop it more. I did really enjoy what it tried to do. I really liked the romance. Like I said, it worked for what it was. I just see the potential. So I think a little bit more world building, a little bit more atmosphere setting. But overall, it was a really good time, and I really enjoyed it. Ooh, Bad Witch Burning. So this is another urban fantasy. I read it for my reading witch books vlog, and this one is about a girl who can talk to the ghosts, and one day she finds out that she can actually resurrect them from the dead, and she thinks that's a great way to make money. I really love this book. I would say it was a good time indeed. It wasn't quite a masterpiece, but it was a really good time, and I really enjoyed the female friendship in it, the themes of it, the execution was interesting. I really liked it, and I would really recommend. A little tea break. Right, Blackout. So this is a collection of short stories, but they're all kind of interconnected, and it all takes place during a blackout in New York, and it's all by Black authors and has Black romances. I must say, I was surprised how good it was. I was surprised how much I liked it. But I would say that Blackout is a good time indeed. I really, really liked all the stories. They were adorable. It was a good time. It's a short story collection, so my expectations are different. But I definitely really thought it was adorable. I really enjoyed it. Ace of Spades is a really, really interesting one. So this is, I guess, a contemporary, but it's kind of like a little bit dark academia. So it's pitched as Get Out meets Gossip Girl, and in it we have two Black students in a predominantly white school who all of a sudden start getting bullying texts and get threatened. So they have to figure out who did it. I love this book. It was so good. I'm gonna put it in masterpiece because I think it deserves to be there. It was such a good time. I mean, it was written so well. It was just the right level of dramatic, just the right level of realistic, just the right level of ridiculous. It was so high-paced, high stakes. You felt the stress and the anxiety and the absolute, like, hopelessness of the characters, and I was surprised because I thought it would be good, but it ended up doing things that I was immensely impressed. So Ace of Spades, first masterpiece on the list. Well, so now we're gonna jump into The Wolf and the Woodsman. So this is a high fantasy, kind of dark fairy tale. I heard someone say that it's a retelling of Red Riding Hood. I really wouldn't say so. It's just like based on the Bulgarian and Jewish mythology. So we follow a main character who lives in a village where every single girl has a magic power, except for the main character. And every year the guardsmen or the woodsmen from the king come and take one of the girls for her magical power. And this year people send off the main character even though she doesn't have any power because they just don't think she's worth much, and they'd rather keep the girl with actual power. I'm sorry, but it's another masterpiece. You're gonna think I'm crazy, but it was so good. I love this book. I mean, I'm Polish, and the Eastern European mythology was just doing things to me. I love the characters. I love how dark it was. I love that it just went there. You know what I mean? Like, it was brilliant. I would highly, highly recommend that one. I love the writing style of it. I love that it was a standalone. It's just so many things I loved about it. And I have a full review if you want to check it out. I actually have a full review for Ace of Spades as well. And all of its villains. So, and I have a video for Bad Witch Burning. A lot of these I have videos for. But yeah, if you want to check it out, we'll link all of those above. Another high fantasy, and this is the Jasmine Throne. So I think it's by a South Asian author, so it's set in that kind of world, and then we follow two women. One of them is a princess, exiled. One of them is a maid that takes care of the princess. It's a sapphic romance, and I'm sorry, but it's another masterpiece. Listen, the bad one's gonna come, but this one was absolutely amazing. I loved it. The world building, the romance, the intrigue, the characters, all of these just worked for me so well, and I was blown away. I didn't have that high expectations, but yeah, it was so freaking good. Just like the romance, the sapphic romances, oh my god, I was fed this year. So many good ones. I cannot wait for my recommendations video. Definitely gonna come sometime next year, because I just read so many good ones, and by authors of color and authors from different diasporas. I just loved it. It was so good. Okay, then we have the Final Girl support group. So this book is a horror, and it's kind of an ode to old slasher movies from like the 80s and 90s. So in this book we follow a group of final girls. So each of them has survived her own like version of like a real world slasher movie, and the main character, her way of coping with that is to become like super badass and skilled and like don't leave her house basically. And there's a final support group, there's a support group for them where they talk to a therapist every month. They start getting murdered, so it's about figuring out who's doing it. I really enjoyed this book. I would say it was a good time indeed. I really think it was very good at what it actually was doing, and I really respect it. If you love slasher movies, I think it's absolutely perfect. So engaging and fun, and I would 100% recommend it. Next up, we have She Who Became the Sun. Oh my goodness. So this one is a retelling or like reimagining of the rise to power of, I think, the first emperor from the Ming Dynasty, I believe. In real life, he was a man, but in this book, the boy that was supposed to become the emperor dies, and his sister takes his place and steals his destiny. So it's kind of gender bent. I love the discussions on gender. I love the discussions on like sexuality, but also like, I don't know, it's just like so many good things this book did. I really, really loved that. Yeah, especially the gender discussion. I thought that was super cool. The world building was awesome. The intrigue was there. It was like everything you want is there. Am I gonna do it? I think I'm gonna do it. It is a masterpiece, everyone. It is a masterpiece. Next up, we have Sweet and Bitter Magic. So this book is another sapphic one. We follow two girls. One is a witch. One is looking for a witch to save her father, and they're trying to combat this disease that overtook the land. I thought it was cute, but I'm not gonna like sit here and pretend I really loved it. It was good and it was adorable, but I felt a bit young, felt a bit simple. I just read so many different and interesting books this year that it was cool. It was good. It was cute. Yeah, I would say it exists. It's a bit harsh. I feel like I respect what it tried to do. I do, but I'm saving that tier for like some other type of books that maybe were trying to do a little bit more with their themes. Whereas this one was a cute love story that I enjoyed, but next up we have The Project by Courtney Summers. So this book, we follow a girl who's trying to get her sister away from a cult. And I didn't like it. The time I read it, I think I said it was fine. And it's still fine. But I didn't particularly like it. I don't like what it did. I was so disappointed. I thought there'd be more to it. I feel bad putting it in snooze because it wasn't boring necessarily, but I was kind of like waiting till I get to the end and just like being like, ugh. And like I didn't like the characters, and I guess it's part of the point, but I just really didn't. Not that I have to love the characters to love a book, but I wasn't a fan that I didn't like what it did in some of the themes. What did I respect to what it tried to do? You know what? I'm gonna say I respect what it tried to do because it did tackle a subject of cults, of charismatic personalities, of how easy it is to be caught up in that. So I can respect that while also thinking I didn't like it. Okay, dokes. Then we have The Unbroken. So this book is another sapphic high fantasy. In this one we follow a princess and a guard, and the princess trying to recruit the guard to be a traitor. I didn't like it, and I don't know what it was, but I did kind of find it boring. I didn't like the romance particularly. I still can't pinpoint what it was because I liked similar books in the past. So I would say The Unbroken. It was a snooze. Okay, so then we have The Wife Upstairs. So this one is a thriller, and it's a retelling of Jane Eyre. And we follow a woman who marries a man, and there was something dodgy about his ex-wife. They live in the suburbs. I don't know how to sell this book more. I would say it exists. While I was reading it, I wasn't upset that I was reading it, and I think that's 99% thanks to the audiobook narrators, because they did such a, like, especially the ex-wife, I loved her accent and I really appreciate what she did and had such a good time with it. But like the story itself was so basic. Yeah, I wasn't surprised at all. I wasn't thrilled at all. The Gilded Ones. Okay, so this one is a high fantasy, and we follow a world where if you bleed red, you're fine, but if you bleed gold, you're killed. The main character bleeds gold, and she gets recruited into the king's army, or like the leader's army. I really enjoyed that book. I would say it was a good time indeed. I had a lot of fun. I really loved female friendships in it. Really, really cool female characters. A cool world, good world building. Overall, really enjoyed it. I am looking forward to the sequel as well. Next up is Witches Steeped in Gold, which is about two witches from opposing families, and they need to team up to oust the current ruler. I really enjoyed it. There were some things that I did criticize in my review, which was things like the lack of explanations, the difficulty into getting into the world, and maybe a little poor world building or explaining. You had to have a lot of background knowledge to understand. But despite that, I would say it was a good time indeed. I did really, really enjoy the characters and their dynamics and how that played out and who was good, who was bad. I really am curious where to see where it was going. I would really recommend it. It was actually quite a complex fantasy. Next up, we have The Infinity Chords. So this book is a YA sci-fi, and we follow a girl who died, and in this world, when you die, your subconscious goes somewhere, and that somewhere was hacked by an Alexa-like digital assistant, and there's an uprising. It sounds ridiculous, and it was, but it was also a good time, so I would say it was a good time indeed. I liked what it did. It was a little... So I feel like this tier maybe isn't like super accurate, because there are books that would say definitely are better than that, the Infinity Chords in this tier. But it was really, really fun, like interesting, funny world. I can see really cool things happening in the sequel, and it was unique, and it was a YA sci-fi, and now I'm just discovering that YA sci-fi needs a bit more love, so... The Shadow of the Gods is a high fantasy. It's inspired by like Vikings, and there's groups fighting. I know I can never explain John Gwynn's books well or give it justice, but it was really good. It was really, really good high fantasy in a sense that it had really rich world building, really rich characters. I especially really enjoyed the female characters in this, surprisingly. A really, really good time. Yeah, it was a good time indeed. Oh, I feel bad now. I did read so many good books, and they were all new releases. So I don't know what to tell you. I'm sorry. Most of these are good. Next up, we have Blackwater Sister. So in this one, we follow a girl who's moving back to Malaysia with her family, and she's a lesbian, and she gets haunted by the ghost of her grandmother. I read it recently, and I was a bit disappointed. I feel like that synopsis is not really accurate. I thought it would be about the intergenerational struggles with her sexuality and stuff, and it was to an extent, but it was more about gangsters. So I don't know if it exists or if I respect what it tried to do. I think it exists, because what it tried to do, what I thought it was trying to do, I really would have enjoyed. Next up, we have The Ivies. So this one is a YA thriller, and we are set in a boarding school, and a student dies, and people think that's because someone was jealous of her getting to Harvard. So this is a book by Alexa Dawn, who I really enjoy, and I really like her videos. So maybe I'm biased, but I thought it was a really good time. It was the only thing I didn't like about it was the ending. I thought it was like Scooby-Doo levels of cheesy, but I enjoyed the rest of it, so I would still call it a good time indeed, because it was really well thought out, and I liked how you could follow along with the investigation. That was done very well. Just the ending I would change. And next up we have lore. So in this world, Greek gods have to fight every X many years for their powers, and normal mortals can like kill the immortal and gain their power. Lore is part of such family. I didn't like it. I thought it was so fucking boring. But I'm gonna put it in I am kind of offended, because whereas Lesson Vengeance and Unbroken were boring, this one was so boring. I felt like it was pulling teeth out of me. It was so I did not like it at all. I have a full review if you're curious why, but yeah, I would not recommend this book at all. I thought it was so fucking boring. It's just so boring. Next up we have Remote Control, which is by Nandi Okorafor, who wrote Binti, and it's a kind of like a short novella. It's a pretty slim book, but boy does it pack a punch. So we follow the adopted daughter of Death as she walks around. It's a sci-fi, but holy crap, it was a masterpiece. I loved what this book did. I just found it so interesting, and yeah, I just immensely respect the author for the book, and I just really loved it. It was such an exploration of just like interesting stuff. I don't even know how to do it justice explaining it, because it's so short. I don't want to tell you anything, but it was a masterpiece, and I would 100% recommend. Next up we have The Firekeeper's Daughter. I would put this book. It was a good time or was a masterpiece. So let me tell you a little bit about. No, it was definitely not a snooze. So let me tell you a bit about it first. So in this book, we follow a Native American girl who experiences the murder of her best friend and kind of tries to figure out what happened. I really loved this book. I thought it was super well done. I really liked how it brought in like the Native American culture perspective. I would say it was a masterpiece in the genre that it was, which I think is a YA thriller. Amazing execution, really well written. The author wrote this book for like 25 years, and it was very polished. It was really good. Okay, the next book is In My Dreams I Hold a Knife, and I'm laughing because I want to put it in masterpiece, and I'm gonna explain why. So this is an adult thriller or like mystery novel, and we follow a group of people who graduated like 10 years ago this university, and when the year they graduated, one of their friends died, and now it's a 10-year reunion, and they're all come back to the school. I loved it. It was messy. It was messy, that's for sure. It was very camp. I would describe it as melodramatic, but I had such a good freaking time. It was so addicting. You couldn't put it down. The ending to the mystery, bloody hell, like plot twist after plot twist. It was so good. So for a genre it is, for what it was going for, I would say is a masterpiece, because it was just such a good freaking time. I really loved it, and it's probably my favorite thriller of the year. Just so good. I am so excited for what the author is going to come up with next. Next up we have Iron Widow, which is a YA fantasy. It's a reimagining of the rise to power of first and only female emperor of China, and we follow this world. There are like mechas, and these giant robots have to fight each other, and the main character wants to take revenge on for the death of her sister. So she volunteers. I would say it was a masterpiece. I don't know, maybe some people would disagree, but I thought it was really fun. It was a really fun time. It was ridiculous. Again, it was a really good YA sci-fi, and it was kind of, it was ridiculous, but you know, sometimes ridiculous is what you need. So I totally respect what it did. I do really love the author. They have a YouTube channel, and I really love watching their videos. Okay, next up we have Little Thieves. So this one is a retelling of a Brothers Grimm fairy tale, I believe, but it's about a girl who gets cursed, and if she doesn't make up for her bad deeds, she will turn into a bunch of rubies. I really like this book. I am gonna put it in good time indeed. No. Yeah, there you go. in a good time indeed. It was campy, it was fun, it was kind of like Deadpool-esque with its narration. I don't know, it was just so different. I really loved how it was written. I like how fun it was and how it wasn't like afraid to have fun with its concept. So I would really recommend that one. It was really fun. Next up, we have The Midnight Girls. So this one is a book I just read very recently, and it's a sapphic high fantasy, but it's by a Polish Australian author, and it's filled with like Polish mythology and stuff, and Polish influences in general. And it's about these two witches slash monsters who are competing for the prince's heart, because if they're witches, eat the heart, they will get powers, and they serve the witches. And like I said, it's a sapphic romance. I loved it. I wouldn't put it in masterpiece maybe, but I would definitely put it in a good time indeed. And that's a high tier, by the way. I'm just putting it out there. It's a very high tier. My Heart is a Chainsaw is a complicated one because this is a horror, and it's we follow a girl who's obsessed with slasher movies, and she really loves them, and she kind of hopes that something happens in the town she lives in and there's another like slasher event. I thought it was good, but I respected it more than I liked it, if that makes sense. I think if you are a fan of the genre, you will love it. If you're a fan of the author, you will love it. I don't like his writing style, or maybe I don't always understand it. It's incredibly chaotic. So I would say I respect it. I didn't dislike it, but I didn't love it either. Once More Upon a Time is a short story by Roshani Chokshi, and it's about prince and princess, and the princess eats like a poisoned fruit. So to save her life, the witch cures her, but she will lose all of her. She and the prince will lose all of their memory of their love for each other, and they have 1 year, and after 1 year they're gonna get divorced, and it's about them coming back together. I really loved it. It was like really cute. I wouldn't be claiming that it was like groundbreaking. It was cute. I liked what I did. I had a very good time with it. I read it in one seat. Then we have She's Too Pretty to Burn. So this is I think I would consider it YA mystery thriller. It's about two girls. It's a sapphic book. I hate it. I don't even want to talk about it. I'm kind of offended of how boring and absolutely ridiculous it was. It turned such levels of ridiculous that I was like, are we in a Scooby-Doo movie now? Because it was literally fedora wearing, mustache twirling villains. It was stupid. Oh my god, 16 Crimson Cranes is a new release from Elizabeth Lim, who wrote The Spin the Dawn, which I didn't like. So I didn't have high expectations, but this is a high fantasy retelling of, I think, 6 swans. And in this book, the princess, or the daughter of the emperor, gets cursed, and her brothers gets turned into cranes, and she can't speak a word, because if she does, they will die. I'm sorry, but masterpiece. I know, but it was such a good freaking book. The journey of the main character, the storytelling, I was blown away. It was so good, and it just made me so happy to read it. I think it was absolutely amazingly executed. Lovely book that just stole my heart. So I really loved it. Would really recommend. Then we have The City Beautiful, which is urban fantasy set in like 1800s Chicago, and we follow a Jewish immigrant, and he investigates why there's a bunch of Jewish boys dying. I would say I respected what it tried to do, because I really loved how it handled the topic of like Jewish immigrants, or immigrants in general in the US in that time period. I really loved the romance was cute. I really loved the culture showcased. I loved learning about the history. And I had a good time, but like I respect what it tried to do more than I enjoyed it, if that makes sense. Like similar to My Charity to Change. So it was good, but I think maybe not as good as some of the other ones. Next up, we have The Death of Jane Lawrence. So this book is a horror, and we follow Jane, who gets married to this man because she needs a husband and he needs an accountant. And he tells her, do not come into my manor at night, you're not welcomed. And she's like, yeah, that's cool. But then she does, and it's weird, it's gothic. It's like a Gothic novel. I did a video on why it's a perfect Gothic novel, and I'm tempted to put it in Masterpiece, but I think I'm gonna put it in Good Time Indeed, because I do think it fell apart a little bit towards the end. I just felt like it was very meandering towards the end, but the first half, oh bloody hell, I read it in like hours. It was just like in one sitting, I read like half of the book. But then unfortunately I had to put it away, and that kind of killed my momentum. And then also the book itself meandered a lot towards the end. So I would say it was a Good Time Indeed, not quite a masterpiece. So then we have Marionettes, which is a paranormal romance. We follow a girl who goes to this academy for witches, and she started losing her power. I really enjoyed this book. I thought it was such a good paranormal book. It's self-published by Katie Wismer, who's a fellow booktuber. I really liked it. I would recommend it. I had a good time with it. It made me really happy to read, and overall it was just a good time. And the last book we're gonna be ranking is White Smoke, which I'm confused about. So this book was a like a YA paranormal slash maybe horror, but I don't know. It was pretty good, to be fair. So we follow a girl who moves to this town with her family, and the ghost starts appearing. You know what? No, I respected what it tried to do, as well as really enjoyed it. So I don't know if it should be I respect what it tried to do, or Good Time Indeed. Now, you know what? I'll put it in Good Time Indeed, because it was a very good ghost story. Like, that's what it tried to be, and that's what it was. And I really enjoyed what it was. Okay, so this is our final scoreboard. I did really enjoy doing this video, so let me know if you want more tier ranking from me. But it was so much fun to talk to you about all the 2021 releases. I am gonna talk about 2022 releases. I mean, I already have. I did a whole video with my most anticipated ones, but I'm continuing my series when I read at least one a month, so at least 12 new releases you're gonna hear about from me. I'm sure even more than that. But yeah, thank you so much for watching. I really hope you enjoyed it and had a good time just like I did. If you did enjoy, if you could comment, like, and subscribe, it really does help me out, so I'd appreciate it. But that's it from me, and I'll see you in my next one. Bye!